Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today's update is from Friday, March 7th of 2025. Today is 518 days since the attacks by Hamas and other militants on October 7th of 2023. These updates are seeking to give witness to every single life lost since those attacks and the daily bombing, with the more than 50,000 deaths in Gaza and in the occupied West Bank. Use this as an opportunity for prayer, an opportunity to turn our eyes to the horrors that are happening so that we might be able to constructively contribute. In the last 24 hours, here's what's happened in Jerusalem and the occupied territories, in Israel, and in the surrounding areas. Today is the first Friday of Ramadan, and in Jerusalem, Israeli police announced that they would deploy 3,000 police officers throughout the Old City. I'll give updates on what transpired there tomorrow, but Israel also sought to limit the number of Muslim worshipers that would be allowed on the Al-Aqsa compound by the age of the worshipers. Muslims over the age of 50 and their children from the occupied West Bank, some would be permitted to enter Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque compound on Fridays during Islam's holy month of Ramadan. That was according to Netanyahu's office. A statement said that a limited number of worshipers would be admitted in line with last year's arrangements starting on Friday, but they did not specify a specific number. Israel's Defense Minister Katz instructed the army to allow protest ships to reach the shores of Gaza, then to disembark the demonstrators inside of Gaza, to seize the ships and to transfer them to the Ashdod port. Ashdod is a city inside of Israel, so that Israel could use the ships to evacuate the Gazan residents, Palestinians from Gaza, to be evacuated in the interest of emigrating them. So, in other words, protest ships would be allowed on the shores of Gaza so that Palestinians could be displaced. Katz said, whoever comes to protest on the shores of Gaza, we will send them into Gaza, and then we will use the ships to evacuate residents who voluntarily wish to leave. Israeli leaders are upset about the direct talks and negotiations between Hamas and Washington. This was reported in Israeli news that U.S. officials did not inform Israel about their direct meetings with Hamas, fearing that it would disrupt negotiations. Israel is concerned that an agreement on Gaza being reached without it serving as the primary conduit for information to Washington. Israel would like to be the go-between. The establishment of a direct communication channel between Washington and Hamas followed the halt in second phase negotiations. There are renewed fears of starvation in Ramadan as Israel has continued to block aid into Gaza. Palestinians are struggling this Ramadan. Prices are soaring within Gaza. Many are stockpiling food because they're fearing starvation after Israel has violated its ceasefire deal with Hamas and blockaded all aid to the Strip. Yesterday, Thursday, in Gaza, Israeli airstrikes targeted Shujaiya, east of Gaza City. 3 people were killed, including 2 from the same family. Hamas published a video showing Israeli hostage Matan Angrest on Friday. On Monday, the Angrest family allowed the publication of the first footage of Matan, who was kidnapped from the tank in which he fought on October 7th at the Nahal Oz base. The family said at the time of his capture, he was covered in burns and suffering from serious wounds. 2 Palestinians were reportedly killed in an Israeli attack in northern Gaza, in the Shujaiya in northern Gaza, Al Jazeera reported. And the new Israeli army chief was set to present plans to resume fighting in Gaza to retake key areas. The plan that Zamir is expected to present includes the deployment of several divisions across Gaza. Just for everyone to know, bombing has started in Gaza again, and now Israel is talking about deploying troops there. The ceasefire is over. Israel's Deputy Prime Minister and Justice Minister Levine initiated proceedings to dismiss the country's Attorney General, Baharav Miara, accusing her of using her office as a political entity, obstructing government decisions, selectively enforcing laws, and fueling societal divisions. Critics have said the move reflects Israeli government's broadening campaign to weaken judicial oversight. In Lebanon, the Israeli news channel 24 reported that the Israeli army is preparing to bring hundreds of Jews to pray at the tomb of Rabbi Ashi, most of which is located inside of Lebanese territory. And the Lebanese army has said that Israelis visiting that site in Lebanon violates the country's sovereignty and a UN resolution. The World Bank estimates that the reconstruction needs in Lebanon is at least $11 billion. And this is following the conflict between Hezbollah and Israel. In Syria, dozens have been reportedly killed by Syrian forces and pro-Assad fighters as they clashed. As gunmen loyal to the deposed President Bashar al-Assad. This was in the country's coastal region. This has been going on for at least 2 days. Dozens of people have been reported killed. The New York Times reported that at least 70 people were killed, dozens wounded in overnight skirmishes between Syria's new authority and gunmen loyal to the former Assad regime. Assad loyalists killed on Thursday 16 security personnel. This is the deadliest attack yet on Syria's new security forces. And other news outlets reported that scores were killed as Syrian forces seek to crush the Alawite insurgency. You'll recall that Bashar al-Assad's regime was an Alawite regime. So this has been going on for the second day. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported that more than 130 people had been killed in 2 days in Western Syria. In the United States, there was a recent meeting between Hamas negotiators and the U.S. where a deal was floated involving the exchange of the last remaining U.S. citizens held hostage by Hamas and a number of other living captives in exchange for a 2-month extension to the Gaza ceasefire and resumption of humanitarian aid. No outcome to that has been reported as of yet. And the Trump administration's cuts to the U.S. aid, the U.S. Agency for International Development, have frozen millions of dollars in contractual payments to aid groups that are operating in Gaza, leaving the agencies paying millions of dollars out of pocket to preserve the ceasefire. The U.S. has reportedly said that they will use AI to revoke the visas of students it sees as Hamas supporters. These are the first such actions reportedly took place on Wednesday when a student's visa was revoked for, quote, Hamas supporting disruptions, end quote. Secretary of State Rubio said on social media that the U.S. has zero tolerance for foreign visitors who support terrorists. The Trump administration is finalizing a new ban on travel to the U.S. for citizens of certain countries that would be wider than the bans of the former first Trump term and potentially include Afghanistan. We don't yet know the full list of what those countries would be. We do know many of them are Arab countries. The capture of the ISIS-K affiliate accused of taking part in the killing of 13 U.S. service members in Afghanistan was not solely the work of the Trump administration, according to the former Biden administration officials, as well as current U.S. officials. And internationally, Switzerland canceled a conference on the application of the Geneva Conventions to the occupied Palestinian territory for want of participants, according to the Swiss Foreign Ministry. As this Lenten season continues, I'd encourage you to consider the CMEP resource, Come Walk With Us, that uses stories from the Gaza ceasefire pilgrimages of last year as a devotional. There's a resource for every Sunday, starting from Ash Wednesday, and each day of Holy Week during this Lenten season. This comes from a hymn that was shared on Ash Wednesday by the Nicotawa River Monastery. Come with us. Walk with us in the footsteps of Jesus. He shall reign with justice and peace, and he shall reign, let your kingdom come. He shall reign with justice and peace. Come walk with us in the footsteps of Jesus. Amen.